was an area manager at a home delivery depot responsible for sorting but not contracted carrier capacity. A regional carrier lost 40 drivers 5 days before a bank holiday promotion, threatening 7,800 customer deliveries outside my formal remit. I took ownership of the end-to-end customer risk even though transport procurement belonged to another team. I could hand the issue to procurement, hold orders at the depot, or coordinate a temporary multi-carrier recovery while protecting safe loading limits. I segmented orders by promise and postcode, quantified spare capacity with 3 carriers, checked insurance and loading constraints, and identified 4,900 orders that could be reassigned without new sortation. I formed a daily control call, secured temporary rates with procurement approval, redesigned dispatch waves, and gave customer service a postcode-level risk file before contacts arrived. One carrier offered capacity only if we bypassed scan reconciliation. I rejected that shortcut and reduced its allocation because loss and customer notification risk outweighed speed. When a relief carrier missed its first collection, I shifted 2 postcodes overnight, added arrival confirmation 2 hours before loading, and kept a local overflow route ready. Before closing the action, I sampled performance across different shifts and demand conditions, so the result did not depend on one unusually experienced team or a quiet operating window. I translated the outcome into a simple frontline mechanism with a named owner, an escalation threshold, and a weekly measure, which made the change repeatable after I stepped away. I also documented the operating assumptions, named the owner for each follow-up action, and set a clear review date so that temporary controls could not quietly become permanent. I wrote the decision, assumptions, owners, and stop conditions on a 1-page control plan so the next shift could challenge the logic rather than rely on verbal context. I used both a leading indicator and a customer outcome measure that prevented a short-term productivity improvement from hiding quality, safety, or backlog age. During implementation, I stayed at the operating point for the first cycle, asked frontline employees what the mechanism missed, and changed only one variable at a time. I assigned named owners for each checkpoint and made escalation thresholds visible in the shift huddle, which reduced ambiguity when I was not physically present. After stabilization, I compared the result with the original baseline, checked for cost or defect displacement, and documented the mechanism for the other shifts. Before committing, I asked a supervisor who disagreed with me to identify the weakest assumption, then converted that concern into a measurable checkpoint rather than relying on consensus. I separated mandatory controls from preferences, which let the team move quickly without weakening the safety, quality, or customer promise that the operation existed to protect. For each alternative, I estimated the likely customer impact, labor requirement, operational reversibility, and worst credible failure, and I explained why my chosen path offered the best balance. I briefed affected teams before launch, checked understanding through questions rather than attendance, and made the escalation route clear to people working outside my shift. I also protected normal operations by defining which work would pause, which work would continue, and who could authorize expansion beyond the initial controlled scope. At every review point, I compared actual performance with the assumption that justified the decision. When they diverged, I changed the plan rather than defending the original recommendation. I made the cost of the choice visible as well as the benefit, because hiding overtime, rework, or displaced backlog would have made the result look stronger but less useful. Once the immediate issue was resolved, I held a short review with frontline representatives and partner teams, captured what failed in the original mechanism, and assigned permanent actions. We delivered 96.8% on promise versus a forecast of 61%, protected £1.2 million of promotion orders, and recorded no loss cages. The temporary rates added £38,000, but estimated refunds avoided were £170,000. Ownership means following the customer outcome across organizational boundaries while respecting specialist approvals and refusing shortcuts that merely transfer risk.